The prosecution lawyer for the case, P. Diddy, has just revealed all the crimes the rapper committed, and the accusations are even more serious than anyone could imagine. From money laundering to witness intimidation, connections with organized crime to possible homicides. Investigations point out that Diddy's empire may have been built on a corruption and violence scheme. And now, with the tests coming to light, the question everyone asks is, what will happen to his life if he is condemned? Can he take decades of arrest or even face a perpetual sentence? In this video, the prosecution lawyer exposes all the details of this shocking case, and especially what will happen to P. Diddy's life if he is convicted. So stay until the end to understand what is really happening. And if you want to keep following these bombastic revelations, subscribe to the channel now and enable notifications. You will not want to lose the outcome of this story. The accusation lawyer's report begins as follows. For years, Sean Combs, known as P. Diddy, sold the world the image of a successful entrepreneur, a music tycoon, someone who built his fortune with hard work and strategic vision. But behind this narrative, there is another story, one that involves financial crimes, obscure transactions, and such a well-structured corruption system that it has been able to keep it on top for decades. What we are revealing here are not mere speculation. There are financial records, witness testimonials, and concrete evidence showing how Diddy used a network of offshore storage companies to move millions of dollars without justification. Money that came in out of their companies without a clear trail, inflated millionaire contracts without anyone questioning. This is not just mismanagement, this is money laundering, a scheme designed to hide the true origin of its wealth. And this network of corruption was not limited to money. Diddy has always been surrounded by powerful people, from politicians to high-ranking figures in the entertainment industry. But these connections were not built only with public relations and good business. What investigations point out is that he used his influence to silence those who could expose him. Bribes were paid, threats were made, contracts were signed under coercion. There were journalists who tried to investigate their activities, and suddenly their careers were destroyed. Entrepreneurs who dared to question their practices and suddenly lost everything. And then there are the parties. For the public, they were just extravagant events marked by luxury and excess. But for those who knew, behind the scenes, these parties were something else. Places where closed businesses were closed, where drugs circulated freely, where secrets were negotiated. It was in these events that organized crime figures gathered with entrepreneurs, that transactions were made without traces. And the most disturbing part, for years there has been rumors about Diddy's proximity to the underworld of crime. Now these rumors have begun to take shape through evidence and testimonials. People who had financial conflicts with him simply disappeared. Others were coerced to shut up. There are witnesses who claim that he used his power to ensure that no one challenged him, and those who did it paid a high price. If all this is proven, we are not just talking about a scandal in the music industry. We are talking about crimes that can put it behind bars for decades. Money laundering, influence trafficking, bribery, criminal association. Each of these crimes has severe penalties and when added, can mean the end of P. Diddy's freedom. But this is just the beginning. Because it is not enough just to understand how he got that money. What really scares is what he did to stay on top. At the next point, let's talk about how Diddy used threats and violence to ensure no one dared to challenge him. P. Diddy has always cultivated the image of a charismatic entrepreneur, a man who knew how to move in the world of business and music. But what few people know or have the courage to say is that behind this public character, there was another Diddy, a man who used fear as a tool, violence as a form of control, and threats as his main method to ensure no one turns against him. Over the years, several people who worked by their side have told scary stories. Former employees, former business companies, even artists who were under their music seal, claim that Diddy not only manipulated behind the scenes, but who used aggression and intimidation whenever he felt his threatened position. There are reports of meetings that ended in beating, people who were persecuted and coerced to remain silent. And they are not just rumors. There are witnesses who claim that, when trying to detach themselves from the empire of Diddy, they received direct threats, anonymous phone calls warning that they knew where their families lived, messages making it clear that no one leaves without paying a price. Some of these cases are under investigation and, if confirmed, may lead to formal coercion, accusations, witness intimidation, and even extortion attempt. But the most shocking are the episodes of physical violence. There are records of incidents where Diddy allegedly ordered security guards to make a way to people who challenged him. Some of these cases have never been reported out of fear. Others were drowned out with money and influence. But now, with the advancement of investigations, names have begun to emerge. People who have been silent for years are finally talking. And what they describe is a pattern of behavior of someone who used psychological and physical terror as a way to ensure their impunity. If convicted of these practices, Diddy may face a series of accusations, each with heavy feathers. Witness intimidation can lead to up to 20 years in prison. Conspiracy to commit aggression can add even longer. And depending on his involvement, in the most serious cases, these accusations may evolve to even more serious crimes, with even more severe penalties. But there is something even bigger behind it. These threats and acts of violence were not just about money or business. They were part of a continuous effort to ensure that certain secrets never came to light. And this leads us to the next topic: Diddy's possible connections to the underworld of crime and the rumors about involvement in homicides. By this time, it is clear that P. Diddy did not build his empire only with talent and business opportunities. He operated in the shadows, manipulating those around him, ensuring that his position was never threatened. But what few imagined, and which now begins to come out, is how far he may have gone to protect his interests. We are talking about something much more serious than corruption and threats. We are talking about the real possibility of involvement in homicides. For years, there's been rumors about Diddy's proximity with organized crime figures. Musical entrepreneurs have always whispered about their ties with traffickers, gangs, and individuals who had as much power as they, but who operated outside law. But until then, it had never been proven. Now, new witnesses and evidence have begun to emerge, and the connection between Diddy and these elements is becoming impossible to ignore. There are reports of people who crossed their way and simply disappeared. We are not talking about ruined careers. We are talking about interrupted lives. Investigations point out that some of these people were about to expose compromising information about their business when they suddenly disappeared, without a trace. Some of these deaths were treated as accidents. Others were archived without explanation. But the standards are undeniable. One of the most notorious cases involves the death of a figure in the rap world who, shortly before being murdered, had filed a direct conflict with Diddy. There are speculation that he may have ordered execution, or at least facilitated the way for this to happen. Connections with certain criminal groups, influential contacts within the judicial system, and the ability to cover up evidence make this theory more than plausible. If these calls are confirmed, Diddy could face accusations of conspiracy to commit murder, indirect participation in murders, and obstruction of justice. These are crimes that would not only end their career, but could result in life imprisonment. But there is another side of all this. Because even if he has never pulled a trigger or committed the act with his own hands, the law does not distinguish masterminds from executors. When there is sufficient evidence of involvement, if it is established that Diddy commissioned, facilitated, or covered these crimes, he will face a conviction as heavy as any other criminal accused of murder. This leads us to an even more delicate point: the collapse of his financial empire and the fall of his career. Now that everything is coming to light, it is not just a criminal judgment, but a total implosion of everything he has built. For years, P. Diddy has been seen as untouchable. Its influence on the music industry was absolute. Artists lined up to sign with him. Brands wanted their face on campaigns, and their contact network included some of the most powerful people of entertainment and business. But what happens when the truth comes to light? What happens when the secrets that supported their empire begins to become proof of crime? The result is already moving. A financial collapse that can be irreversible. The first major impact came with the removal of sponsors and business partners. Companies that previously saw him like a money machine started running in the opposite direction. Big brands do not want to be associated with a name involved in money laundering, violence, and possible homicides. From the moment the accusations became public, millionaire contracts began to be terminated. The financial market also reacted. Investors who had interests in their businesses withdrew their money, and their actions, both symbolic and real, plummeted. The Bad Boy Records empire, which was once one of the greatest hip-hop forces, is now under relentless scrutiny. Investigations on the source of the label's backgrounds began to emerge, and artists who were once by their side now move away to protect their own careers. No one wants to be the next target of the investigations. What was once seen as a prestige seal became a heavy burden. And then there is the personal impact. Property, luxury cars, millionaire properties, everything is being analyzed by promoters and researchers. When an empire is built on dirty money, justice has the right to confiscate every penny. What today belongs to Diddy may soon be in the hands of the government. Your assets may be auctioned to cover compensation, fines, and reimbursement for financial crimes. But perhaps the most devastating blow is not the financial, but the social. For years, Diddy cultivated an image of powerful and unbeatable man. Now this image is ruining celebrities who once exalted him, now avoid mentioning his name. Events that used to have him as a guest of honor now exclude him completely. His presence, which was once synonymous with status, became a problem. This collapse, however, is just a preview of what may be coming. Because losing money and prestige is one thing, losing freedom is another, completely different. And if the accusations are confirmed, Diddy may be about to face the biggest nightmare of his life. Years, perhaps decades behind bars. This leads us to the last point. What will Diddy's life be like if he is condemned? This is the question that really matters now. If all these accusations are confirmed, P. Diddy will not just be facing a scandal or a status fall. He will be facing a future where freedom will no longer be an option. And when a man used to luxury, power and influence enters the prison system, everything changes. First, we need to talk about the possible sentence. Considering the severity of the accusations, the sum of the penalties may exceed decades of prison. Financial crimes like money laundering can yield up to 20 years. Witness intimidation and extortion add more time. If there is proof of your involvement in homicides or conspiracy to commit violent crimes, the penalty may reach life imprisonment. Even if he gets a deal to reduce the time, he would hardly come out in less than 25 or 30 years. Now, what does this mean in practice? Unlike other celebrities who spend time in prison and then resume their careers, Diddy would not have this luxury. Its name would be associated with heinous crimes, making it impossible to return to the entertainment industry. And even within prison, your life would not be easy at all. The reality of the prison system for someone like him is brutal. Diddy spent his entire life at the top, surrounded by security guards, living in exclusive mansions and parties. In prison, he will have no control over anything. Its external influence will not be sufficient to guarantee privileges, and its fame can become a problem. Many detainees do not respect celebrities, especially those involved in white-collar crimes or who had a life of ostentation. It can become a target either from other prisoners or factions that control prisons. Another important factor is isolation. People accustomed to running empires and living under the spotlight, often suffering psychologically when they are reduced to just one more number in the system. The emotional and mental impact can be devastating. Many can't stand it. Some try desperate agreements to reduce their penalties. Others completely lose their sanity. Diddy would also lose any possibility of controlling his business. Their companies would be dissolved or sold at a settlement price. Their goods would be confiscated. What was once a billionaire empire would become ruins, and those who once called him business genius would now only refer to him as a convicted criminal. The question that remains is, did he really believe he could escape it forever? Justice may take time, but when it arrives, it comes in full force. And now, P. Diddy may be about to find out what it means to lose everything. The game is over.